Howdy, folks. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. This is Dr. Richard Owen telling you welcome back or welcome aboard. We are glad to have you. Another really big show tonight. Very exciting, interesting guest, particularly for our youthful audience. I remind everyone we are all over social media. Glad to have you as Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW. We are also developing our blog, docowenshow.com. Find us, get in touch with us via social media, like the Doc Owen Show page, follow us on Twitter, etc., etc. We would love to have you, and that is by far the best way to connect. Joined in the Hilltop studio tonight by Miss I'm a Surefire.
Howdy, folks.
And Uncle the Bocce.
Hello there.
All right. Full complement we have here. We always start the show in a very deliberate manner. The first of which is Miss Surefire provides us with a piece of inspiration. Uncle Bocce gives us today in history, a little brief shot at what might have happened sometime in the past. Then I close up the little segment with a leadership quote or two. So, on that note, take it away.
Tonight's quote, as always, comes from inspirationaldaily.com. It's from a gentleman by the name of E.M. Forster. He was an English novelist and short story writer. Also, he was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature in 13 different years.
Wow.
So I guess they really liked his writing.
Did he ever win it?
It didn't say. It was like nominated. Kind of like Susan Lucci from the All My Children. She was always nominated. But
perennial runner-up.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. She was a good actress, too. Anyway, his quote is, "We must be willing to let go of the life we have planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us."
Really?
Okay.
That's really good. That's very biblical.
It is?
That's true.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is very biblical.
Okay. So, what do you got for us from a history moment, sir?
Well, on this day, August 11th, in 1984.
Oh, I thought we were talking history.
Well, yeah, that it is. It is to some people. It's very ancient history, and they don't want to know about it. But what happened on this day is that Ronald Reagan was preparing to give his daily briefing, daily radio show or whatever.
Okay.
And they asked him to do a voice check. He obliged. And this is what he said. Some of you might even remember this. "My fellow Americans, I'm pleased to tell you today that I've signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes." Now, that was not part of the recording for the show.
Right.
But boy, did it go gangbusters afterwards.
That's
Not
fun.
bad.
Just like today. I'm not trying to draw a
Twitterverse.
comparison between Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan, because there is none.
Right.
But just like the media today takes off with what he says, they did the same thing here.
Yep.
And went around the world. People didn't like it.
Interesting.
The other interesting thing that happened this day in 1973 was hip-hop was born. 1973
Wow.
in West Bronx.
Are you trying to tell me Dr. Richard Owen, the chief bottle washer at the Doc Owen Show,
Yes.
that there were no bunny rabbits before 1973?
Oh, very good. Very good.
Leadership quote for the day from our friends at Crowned Grace International. "Winning is as much about execution as strategy. Most companies can establish a strategy. Few have the leadership or discipline to execute." And that's from a fellow by the name of Stephen P. Shipley, who makes the best chocolate-filled donuts in the universe.
He the bomb.
He executes his strategy. You know the saying, the tagline, as we call it in the industry, for the Doc Owen Show is delivering truth to youth. And as you listen to our interview this evening with Dr. Daryl Koehn, you may hear a twist to that we were thinking about adopting, actually, because, well, we'll get into it during the interview. But it so happens that this week, August the 8th through the 12th, is Truth for Youth Bible Week, put out by the American Family Association.
Wow.
So just thought that, that's not a moment in history, that's a moment in current time that I thought we should know about.
That's nice.
Okay. We got a tough show tonight, so let's rock and roll. Uncle Bocce, you got a history lesson for us?
Sure do.
Okay, fabulamento.
Okay.
Take it away.
We've been talking about the African Americans in the British New World.
Yep.
And last week we left off with a very overlooked concept about free African Americans. There were free African Americans, and they were freed either because they were granted freedom or they escaped. So that's where we left off last week.
Okay.
Now, as the 17th century became the 18th century, in other words, a change of the century, the institution of
And that's
slavery,
always been confusing. So what you're talking about is going from the 1600s to the 1700s.
The 1700s, yes. Okay. The institution began to grow exponentially as far as slavery.
Okay.
The different colonies started writing very harsh codes concerning slavery.
Really?
And it was they were adopted across the South, and even though slavery was less common in the northern colonies, many New England shippers benefited from the so-called triangular trade, going from Africa to Europe, back to the United States, back to Africa, and all of that.
Okay.
So, economics.
Yeah.
Okay? Just keep that thought in mind
Gotcha.
about the economics.
Yeah.
So,
Always.
okay. Slavery was indeed becoming entrenched in the British colonial life. The colonization of the Americas, it brought together, this is it's never happened before in history. It brought together three distinctive peoples for the first time from distant continents. The Native Americans, Europeans, and the Africans. They inhabited the world that would become the United States of America. And it's the first time that's happened. And, of course, it would contribute to a new glorious civilization that would follow. That is the United States.
Okay.
It's important that you remember that because these things
Because of all of the
were
contributions.
very much, all right, they were part of the fabric
Right.
of what this country became.
Right.
It also
And
emphasizes the idea of assimilation.
There you go. Yeah.
It emphasizes that because
Yeah. It wasn't all bad.
Exactly.
They like us to think it was all bad and
Yes.
and egregious and
For selfish
fighting
purposes.
and yada yada yada. That went on, but that wasn't the only thing that went on.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, despite the great numbers of Africans, now we call them African Americans, who were in bondage, there was a rich legacy of artistic, religious, and linguistic gifts which merged together as realities of a new world to form the founding of what would become American culture.
Interesting.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So this is where we're getting into nitty-gritty here of how America became to be such an exceptional nation.
Right.
Many reasons for it. So that's all I have for this week.
So, and so in order to do that, good job.
Yes.
Excellent job. And in order to do that, the folks that were thrown together into this melting pot invariably had to take the best and the brightest and the best contribution from each of their cultures.
Exactly.
And throw it into this pot and make it even greater.
Exactly.
You know, what is it? The sum of the whole is greater than the parts or something like that.
Synergy. Synergistic.
Yeah, easy
Yeah.
for you to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm just trying to emphasize what you said, which is significant.
Yes.
Okay. Tell the
you.
folks.
It's Uncle Baci, UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com or at Uncle_Baci on Twitter.
Oh. Uncle_.
I am Twitterized.
You is in the Twitterverse. And so is I'm a Surefire.
I am too.
Yes.
At I'm a Surefire?
That's right. Uh-huh.
All right. We got three times the power out there pushing this stuff. Good deal.
We're cute.
We're gonna completely blow past our 15-minute intermission because the conversation that I have with Dr. Daryl Koehn, Koehn, from DePaul University. All that's kind of in the recording of the conversation, so I won't spend much time on it. I suggest to you or submit to you that you take a few minutes right up in the front and make sure that you're comfortable. Make sure you got a glass of water or whatever it is you'd like to have. This is about 25 or 26 minutes long, but very, very interesting in terms of a brand new business direction that looks to be being built specifically for the culture, since we were just talking about that, of millennials, of our young people coming along. This is right up their alley, and they are driving it.
Yes.
So
That's
pay
good.
attention. You're gonna want to know what this is. Take it away. I'll do it as the intro. All right. So we're recording. We are about to have a conversation with a young lady by the name of Dr. Daryl Koehn. Dr. Koehn and I are longtime friends and associates in the academic world. She sat on my dissertation committee when I was a real youngster getting my PhD. And she is my ethicist. She's my person I go to if I have an ethical dilemma. Dr. Koehn, welcome to the Doc Owen Show. How are you?
Just fine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. I did my homework.
Well, you're a good student. You were always a good student, Richard.
That's part of the drill. So what we're going to talk about is a new, I'm going to call it new, and Daryl, correct me if I'm wrong, that a new sort of a concept in business corporations, and they are referred to as benefit corporations. And Daryl is a professor, the Wicken chair, the Wicker chair. What's the name of the chair again?
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky. Wicklander chair.
Wicklander
chair in business ethics.
Okay, in business ethics at DePaul University, and they have what is called a gateway. And Daryl, for your information, our target audience and the predominance of our listeners are what are referred to affectionately as millennials, 16 to 30 years old. So our tagline is we deliver truth to youth. So we try to do as good a job as we can to keep these young people's heads from being filled with nothing but mush and give them some facts to go forward with. So you've got a gateway about benefit corporations. I read about how they were formed. Tell our audience, what kind of precipitated this new idea?
Okay. Well, kudos to you for getting the title right. The new form of corporations is called benefit corporations.
Right.
And it's a little bit beyond just a concept. It's actually a new legal form of incorporation. So just like you have LLCs, partnerships, S corporations, you have now something called benefit corporations.
Okay.
So it's not just a branding tag, it's actually a legal form of incorporation. So
Correct.
the movement to create this new form of legal incorporation started about 5 years ago. And at my last count, 31 of the 50 United States have now adopted on a state-by-state basis benefit corporation legislation. So if you, Doc, wanted to start a new company, You could go to the state of Texas Secretary of State, get the right forms for incorporating as a benefit corporation. What's distinctive about these benefit corporations and
excuse me, Daryl, we have some here. I did some homework to see who they were and what kind of companies they are. So go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, let's look back to that because there's some big names like Patagonia now.
Yep.
That's a benefit corporation, for example.
Yep.
So the benefit corporation movement started in response to a perception that companies were at risk if they became stakeholder companies rather than stockholder companies. So the concern was that especially at a point of takeover, the board of directors would feel that their hands were legally tied under prior legislation and that they could only consider a bid by the highest bidder, regardless of whether or not they thought that bidder would do well in terms of keeping the company and its mission alive.
Interesting.
The benefit corporation, by contrast, explicitly states that you do not have to benefit profit maximizing. You don't have to get involved with profit maximization and benefit only the shareholders. Instead, you commit to sort of maximizing benefit.
Right.
So I could start a benefit corporation that said it wanted to clean up the bayou here in Houston. So that would be the social benefit that my benefit corporation would be committed to. And then I would be assessed, presumably by investors, customers, and employees, not by how much profit I made, although these are for-profit companies. These are not for-profits. These are for-profit firms.
Right.
But I would be assessed not by maximizing profit, but whether or not I, in fact, did a good job of cleaning up the bayou.
Correct. Right. And I understand there were a couple of, I think I learned through the DePaul Gateway, there were a couple of lawsuits that really brought this into focus where the stakeholders sued the corporation because the corporation was trying to basically do what a benefit corporation does, but the stakeholders were, I'll use the term greedy, and wanted all of the returns to come back to the shareholders, correct?
Yes, you put it rather well. I mean, the famous case is Newmark versus Craigslist.
Okay.
I'm sorry, eBay versus Craigslist.
Yeah.
And eBay had acquired Craigslist, and Craigslist said it wanted to continue to spend some money in, promoting community stakeholder relations. And eBay said, tut, no,
yeah.
You must maximize profit. So that was a lawsuit that gave impetus to the benefit corporation movement. And the other famous case, it was not a lawsuit, but it was a takeover, was when Ben & Jerry's was bid for by Unilever. There was a perception that Ben & Jerry's would have perhaps liked to have sold their ice cream company to somebody else.
Sure.
But because Unilever was the highest bidder and because the Ben & Jerry's was a traditional form of legally incorporated firm, they felt that they and their directors felt that they had to sell to the highest bidder.
And the courts upheld the fact that they had to sell to the highest bidder. What happened. I mean, the Ben & Jerry and the Craigslist became the losers in the deal because they basically wanted to continue to provide some benefit, and their new owners were maximizing profit, right?
Well, yeah, they lost the case. Now, whether or not
Right.
they're actually losers, that's an interesting question you raised there, because Ben & Jerry's has largely been maintained by Unilever as a kind of standalone entity.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
I think Unilever did not want to kill the goose that was laying the golden eggs.
Well,
and there's some indication that Unilever is maybe having its culture transformed by Ben & Jerry's, that Unilever may even look at becoming a bit more like a benefit corporation. So maybe, ironically, maybe Ben & Jerry's will be the winner in the long run. But your summary of the cases is correct in the sense that both of the firms are out to stockholder profit maximization logic.
You can't see it. Maybe you can hear it in my voice. I'm grinning because I knew the minute I said loser that, I forgot who I was talking to, and each and every word matters. So, it's not that I have to, I don't feel on pins and needles to be politically correct, but I do feel on pins and needles to make sure I use the right word. And for the audience, when you're writing a 175 or a 200-page dissertation and you have three people, Daryl and two others similar to her, they look at each and they they train me to look at each and every word and make sure it's the exact right word I want to use in that particular sentence. And it's good training that I tend to forget sometimes when I'm having a conversation. So you've got the gateway there at DePaul, and it's typically, I would say, that's part of your background. You're providing it as a service. You're to promote, and doesn't some of this tie to the age-old thing that I learned through the Business Ethics Society, Society for Business Ethics, technically called, and about social responsibility. I mean, doesn't this play into that sort of movement, if you will?
Yes.
Okay.
What we're trying to do with our gateway, which is at DePaul University's Institute for Business and Professional Ethics. So if your listeners put in DePaul University, Chicago, and benefit corporations, they'll get into the gateway.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to be a fair broker, so we don't make money by promoting benefit corporations.
Well, no,
Some
that wouldn't be ethical.
No, well, I think they could be in a business of promoting benefit corporations,
right.
but they need to disclose that. And
right.
in the spirit of truth to youth, truth for youth, we think that there ought to be a fair broker out there who sort of provides resources on the good, the bad, and the ugly with respect to benefit corporations. So we try to gather articles and up-to-date information and blogs about the benefit corporations, what's good about them and what's maybe problematic about them. So we're providing that resource, and we're not. We have a dog in the race, so to speak, insofar as we are interested in promoting the idea that businesses, have to be responsible. You just can't say that they're going to maximize profit, because you could make a whole bunch of money, with child pornography or something, but no one
right.
thinks that that's ethical.
Right.
So you really have to be focused on your responsibility, and benefit corporations are an attempt to get people to really think about what's the social good that the company is trying to do.
From the research that I've done and what I've learned, it plays right into the hands and heads of this next generation that is in college and coming out of college. They are very social responsibility oriented.
That's really perceptive.
As a generation, I mean, they want to do good, and this would be an avenue for them to both do good and kind of satisfy their parents that they're going to go make some money. And by the way,
it's good. That's a very good way of putting it.
It's perfect. And by the way, I heard you correct me, so I'll change the tagline from delivering truth to delivering truth for.
Well, I think maybe it's both. Just think about it. It's probably truth 2 and truth 4. I wasn't quite sure which one it was, but then I thought, it could be both.
No, it was truth 2 until you just said that, so I know exactly what you're saying. Good job. Thank you. So what else can we tell the audience? What should they do? They should go find DePaul University. They all know how to Google, and Google Benefit Corporation. And I know, as part of my research, I'm a big fan of LegalZoom, not to give them a plug, but places like that are on the internet. And they did not show Texas as, in other words, if I wanted to go form a new corporation or a company of some type in Texas, benefit corporations was not an option. So in your gateway, do you have a list of the states? Is there a real kind of quick and dirty way? If somebody in Texas wanted to form a benefit corporation, there's no harm in us going out of state to form it, like a Delaware corporation or a Illinois corporation or whatever, right?
I think that's right. That's a legal question. It's a good one. But to answer your question about getting information, if they go to the gateway, the portal, they'll see that there are two buttons, one for people who are doing more like academic research and one for would-be entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And if they click on the entrepreneur button, I'm pretty certain that last time I looked, we have a map up there where you can see at a glance which states have benefit corporations, which ones are planning to have benefit corporations, and which ones don't have it. So they can definitely check out, or they can lobby their state legislature to pass benefit corporation laws.
Now,
Texas is kind of behind the 8 ball here, and I think your summary of why millennials and Gen X people would be interested in this is correct. First of all, they are very interested in it.
Yeah.
And second of all, it's a form that kind of it appeals to people on the right, conservatives, because it's not a government intervention, right? It's a form of private enterprise,
yes,
for-profit private enterprise. But it appeals to people on the left because it encourages people to really think long and hard about what their responsibilities are and how they can maybe, benefit their community as well as finding a job that's meaningful. So there's some evidence anecdotally that these benefit corporations are doing a very good job of attracting the young. And in fact, your audience might be interested to know that I went to the Netherlands. I was asked to speak there in the fall, and my topic was why I think benefit corporations will come to the Netherlands as well. And I sort of presented my take on what was good and what was problematic about them. And then I had an electronic poll, and I asked the audience to vote how many thought they would be a good idea for the Netherlands and how many thought they would be a not so good idea. And every single person under 40 in the audience voted that benefit corporations were exciting and would be a good thing for the Netherlands.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
every single person over 40 voted that they were a good idea. But, that definitely shows that there's appeal of the form to younger people right now.
No, it's a very, very youthful attitude, which I think is great. The more I deal with my audience members, the more I deal in that environment, the more I like it. And I think you would probably agree with your stint in the classroom and doing things in the academic environment. That's where I really get to see the difference in how they approach problems and come up with solutions. It's a little bit different than the way we used to look at it in business school, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's a lot more, well, as you said, I mean, it seems to satisfy the need of both sides, and they're really into it. Yeah, it puts it all into one. So what else do we need to tell them? We usually do these in 10 to 15 minute brackets. So what other message would you like to convey, Daryl? What question have I not asked you that you came prepared to really make sure you hit that point?
Well, I guess I'd say let's talk a little bit about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, I think what's good about this form is that it's not a particularly onerous form in which to incorporate. It means that if you're an entrepreneur or if you're someone looking to work for a firm, you can Google whether or not that firm is a benefit corporation.
Okay.
You can find out very clearly what the purpose is and see if the social mission of that company aligns with yours as a customer and employee. That's to the good. The form also can be helpful to directors who really want clear legal guidance so that the directors don't feel that they're likely to get sued if they don't maximize shareholder profit.
I like it.
So,
I like it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the form is very good in that sense. So I'd say those are the good.
Okay.
The potential bads are that benefit is kind of one of those ishy, squishy words, kind of infinitely elastic. Like, what makes a benefit truly be a benefit? Just by saying it's a benefit doesn't make it so. There's got to be some kind of public standard. And I think that right now there are some companies that are becoming benefit corporations that maybe really are not providing that much of a social benefit. So I think that we need to do collectively some hard thinking about when is a benefit really a benefit. There's also a little bit of squishiness with the idea that you pursue the benefit. I mean, because what constitutes a pursuit? If my dentist tries to remove my tooth and he's incompetent, he keeps pulling at my tooth and damages my jaw, can he say, well, I pursued a tooth removal, so I'm okay?
Right.
And most of us would say, no, competence really matters. So I think that the language now about just pursuing a benefit rather than actually realizing a benefit is maybe a little bit too loosey-goosey. So maybe that's kind of a warning sign that your audience might want to pay attention to.
Can some of these, excuse me, Joe, can some of these, you're bringing up a really valid point, and I'm thinking numbers. In other words, I would want to know, can I look into the books just as if I were looking at a not-for-profit to see the percentage spent on overhead versus the percentage actually delivered to who was going to receive the benefit. You think I can do the same thing with a benefit corporation and see the results of what they said was going to benefit? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're asking, and the answer is I don't really know. I don't think that they have to file 10Ks, so I'm not really clear in my own mind about what must be provided in the way of financial information. Now, legally, depending upon what form of the benefit legislation an individual state adopted, but every state, as far as I know, has some requirement that a benefit corporation, a BC, must file a benefit report every year or every 2 years or every 3 years. So this is supposed to be the report where you, Richard, let's suppose again that you were cleaning up the bayou, you would have to file a report that would be publicly available maybe via the website. Again, it's not really clear how it has to be available, but you'd file a report and you would say, this is what Doc Owen's Benefit Corporation did in year 1. These are our plans for year 2. Stay tuned, and then in year 2 you would be an update. So
we'd kind of create our own. We'd create our own criteria to say this is what we're going to do, and then we could also almost create our own measures to say, there's 5,000 fewer half-gallon milk cartons coming down the bayou than there were a year ago, or whatever. Yeah. I mean, so I understand what you're saying. Okay, so it's not necessarily financial. It's not necessarily a financial result that you're going for, but it truly is a benefit, and then you define what that benefit is as a part of your mission statement. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think that there you're putting your finger on where the rub is, potentially, because can I change year to year my mission, without really flagging that? Or should I have to talk about my failures, too? I mean, I think a truthful benefit report should say, this is where we made a lot of progress, this is where our progress wasn't what we had hoped for, and this is maybe where we actually failed, and we're rethinking our approach or something. And right now, I would have to say, the benefit corporations I've found, and they're hard to find, that's the ugly here. These firms to be held accountable because they're not publicly listed.
I found a pretty good listing, and I've forgotten whether it was in the portal. It was by state of benefit corporations, and then I could click on their website and see who they were and what they did. And I don't know whether to tell you the truth, Darrell, I don't know whether I found it through the portal or with a Google search.
Yeah, you can find it. You can find it sometimes, but there are loads of these. And like in Minnesota, 2 years ago, there were 31 that were started in January alone. 31 or 35, something like that. They were started in January alone after legislation became effective on January 1st, 2015. I think it was in Minnesota.
That's great.
But we could not find, my staff and I looked for a long time, we could not find the majority of benefit reports for those firms. And many of these companies go belly up. And you don't get any record, or you can't find that either. So one of the things that I think needs to happen is there needs to be a central repository of these reports where people who are doing research can look at them, and where your audience, if they wanted to check out, well, let me see, I live in Nevada, maybe there's benefit corporations in Nevada, let me just see which ones I might want to work for. You would like them to be able to get quickly to the benefit reports of extant firms. And if they can't do that, then the whole issue of accountability is kind of fraud.
Yeah, there's no clearinghouse like the SEC. In other words, there's no clearinghouse that you can go to and get, as you referenced, the 10K. It's still a little bit new for those type of regulations, I guess, to be imposed. And it is, I would imagine, a lot of times very entrepreneurial, that they're small. They're young people. They're small organizations and don't have a lot of the standard infrastructure that a bigger business is going to have. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's true. Now, one other thing that your audience should know,
Sorry.
You said you were sort of trying to get them bits of information, is that under most of the laws in the various states, every benefit corporation has to be certified by a third-party provider. And at my last count, there are over 100 of these different certifiers out there. And one of the big certifiers is B Labs. Yep. So if you get certified by B Labs, you're called a B Corp, which is not the same thing as a benefit corporation. You could be a B Corp that's branded by B Labs without being a benefit corporation, or you could be a benefit corporation that's certified by, let's say, Darrell Koehn's rating agency and is therefore not a B Corp. But if you go to the B Labs B Corp site, you will see that their you do have a third party that's casting somewhat of a critical eye over what these firms are doing, so that when you, Doc Owen, decides your bayou cleaning up company needs to be certified, and you go to B Labs will have you fill out pages, reams of data on how you treat your employees, what your environmental policy is, and so forth. I would caution your audience, though, that this is simply self-reported, and I think B Labs only audits about 10% of what's submitted. So you have to you have to look over carefully and take sort of with not just a grain of salt, maybe even a boulder of salt, what people are talking about, here, and you have to do your own independent research.
Yeah, but like the Good Housekeeping seal of approval that was
right.
That they sold it so often and so varied that it basically eventually went away. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. That's a good point. But at least it's a place to start. Is what I hear you saying. It's a real good place to start. And I did see that B Labs designation on some of the research you had me do. So. Well, I think that's great. I mean, to me, it would be very exciting. And just in general, it sounds like almost a whole new industry that needs to sort of spring up with it and around it. And that is, helping people get involved with it, finding out that's what you're doing with your portal, with your gateway at DePaul, is spreading the word. That's cool.
Right, and I think that there's room for consultants, business consultants to help some of these younger people out at a reduced rate, or maybe sort of in pro bono way. That would be helpful. And I also think that there will be ethics problems at these benefit corporations, and as you so well put it, they don't, because they're small and medium enterprises, SMEs. They don't really have the infrastructure right now in place for doing a lot of that ethics reporting. And I'm a little bit concerned that people may think, just because the company says it's a benefit corporation, it's automatically ethically good. But you could still have problems with sexual harassment or conflicts of interest or all kinds of things, even in an SME. So there will need to be some infrastructure.
I hear opportunities for training. I hear opportunities for creating templates, workbooks, and a lot of things that can be, because of the world that they grew up in, everything needs to be delivered electronically. So, WebEx is, I got a real good picture of what you're talking about and how to do it. It's a good idea. And it's going to happen. I mean, somebody will get involved in it. So.
Well, there's some of your audience also. We're talking about benefit corporations, not just in case they want to found a benefit corporation in the abstract, but maybe they want to start a benefit corporation to help benefit corporations. Who knows? I think there's a lot of opportunity here.
I do too, and that's why you reached out. I think it's great. Well, I've enjoyed the conversation, as always. I'm sorry I'm not going to make Anaheim. Do tell Pat hello for me, please. And
I will, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on your show. I think you're doing a wonderful job of outreach here, and, kudos to you.
Well, we're making a run at it. Thank you, Dr. Koehn. Folks, that was Dr. Daryl Koehn, DePaul University, Chicago. Nice, very intelligent lady. Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you, Richard.
Talk to you soon.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas.
Call 1-800-352-3127. Again, 1-800-352-3127. A fee-based company.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. I certainly hope that it is welcome back, because we just had a fabulous conversation with Dr. Daryl Koehn from DePaul University. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it, talking about benefit corporations, Uncle Bocce heard it for the first time and could barely keep his seat.
Absolutely. I'm still not sure I'm sitting down.
So it's a very, very good piece of information that you need to listen to. Let's talk about some more mundane things like immigration in the United States and presidential politics very quickly in the brief amount of time that we have left. United States Senator Jeff Sessions, who is a very outspoken critic on immigration, favored us with a number, 27,265, quote, refugees, unquote, from terror nations entered the United States this year. Just saying. That we're not saying that they're terrorists. We're not saying anything at all. Mr. Sessions is very specific for a very good reason. And if you don't know this, he was an early supporter of Mr. Trump in terms of Trump's immigration stand and the fact that these folks are absolutely not being vetted. We have no idea who they are. All we know is that they are coming from, as he phrased it, terror nations. In other words, nations that are prone to support terrorist-type violence, as is growing greatly in Europe. And why we aren't... anyway. And on a lighter note, if you're not familiar with it, the Obama administration and our erstwhile Department of Justice, who was instructed by the FBI not to prosecute Hillary about the email scandal, all right, has also decided to block the FBI from doing a probe of the Clinton Foundation corruption reports. So for all that we hear and know in the alternate news channels, those of you who depend primarily on mainstream media have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, which is, sorry, not. I try to keep it from being my problem. As Alan West so thankfully said, if you really want to make a conservative angry, tell him a lie. If you want to make a liberal angry, tell them the truth.
That's for sure.
Which is why they're not exactly crazy about what's the WikiLeaks guy? Assange.
Julian Assange.
Yep. One of Hillary's strategic campaign advisors called for Assange's assassination, using those words.
Wow. Well, they're doing pretty good already.
So you would think of all. I mean, no matter where you stand on the politics of things, no matter where you stand, left, right, upside down, or sideways, you've got to be aware that the two primary candidates for the President of the United States coming up in less than 100 days, slightly more than 90 days, are Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, right? Is that a fair assumption, do you think? And Hillary Clinton is spending millions, tens of millions of dollars on advertising across the country, right? So you would assume from all of the airtime that Clinton and Trump names are getting, right? That Trump is keeping pace because he's all over the mainstream media. They are constantly talking about Donald Trump, right? Headline: Trump hasn't spent $1 on ads yet.
Wow.
Does he know how to play the game? And the funny part about it is, all over, ever since Trump made that thing about the Second Amendment and Hillary Clinton and the Second Amendment, you know, the mainstream media went crazy. And so the mainstream is now saying if it weren't for Donald Trump, they would be talking about Hillary's email scandal. They would love to get to Hillary's email scandal, but Donald Trump is just so much in the news that they don't have time to talk about Hillary. I beg your pardon.
That's like what?
You're a news person.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody tells you how much time to spend on what. I don't think, or do they? Because the whole mainstream media is telling the same story in so many words. Same sort of thing. Just don't have time to deal with the email. Would love to deal with the email. Oh, man, would give anything if I had the time to talk about that email. But this Trump guy, he's just all over the news. We can't ignore him. They must think we're a bunch of idiots.
I'm telling you.
And I really hope that you're not.
I don't even think they care.
Donald Trump, are you aware that 50 Republican national security officials walked out or, said they weren't going to support Donald Trump? And his response was, didn't need them anyway. Wasn't planning on using them.
That's right.
And what he said, and I posted it on Facebook. He's actually gotten a whole lot more eloquent about "you're fired," because what he said was all they were. It was just sour grapes because they knew he wasn't going to use them, so their gravy train the federal government was over. And so they were going to go ahead and leave now and save him the trouble of firing him.
There you go.
Let's talk. We got a few minutes. Let's talk about Julian Assange and what's going on around the WikiLeaks. I'm got to make the assumption that everybody within the sound of this voice knows what WikiLeaks is. Do you know what WikiLeaks stands for? Do you know what the wiki is actually an acronym for something? Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that.
Yep, WIKI, and then leaks, right? Mm-hmm. WIKI means what I know is leaks. So there are wikis of other things now using the what I know is. But that's where it came. That's where the WIKI came from, is what I know is. And then Assange added the leaks to make it his business because what I know is leaks. But there are also other things out there called wiki something else.
I got Wikipedia.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. What I know is Pedia.
Yeah.
Yep. But it started with that's what it is. It's what I know is. Are you aware of? I mean, WikiLeaks has been coming out on a very consistent basis against Hillary, the Democrats, the whole nine yards. They've been publishing an awful lot of what is irrefutable, very damaging information, right? I mean, they don't say that they heard something. They publish the real deal, non-redacted, all right, of emails, of stuff. That's why all of the heads of the Democrat Party had to step down right after the convention, if not before, because of WikiLeaks publication of a bunch of emails. They now have just published, I think it was Tuesday of this week, a bunch of information about Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, and ISIS money and support, and going through Libya, Turkey, the whole nine yards. Exactly what a lot of us have been saying ever since Benghazi came down, that they were running guns.
Right.
WikiLeaks has published the proof of that, and there was money made off of it by the Clinton Foundation. Connect the dots. What did the Department of Justice just prevent? An FBI investigation of the Clinton Foundation. Connect the dots, folks. Yep. But it's all coincidence. And wrapped up in these coincidences, including the meeting on the tarmac out in, where was it, Phoenix or something like that, between the DO. See, people tend to forget. The news is so fast, and, they're all involved in this Trump this, Trump that, Trump, and I think that's on purpose, so we forget all these other little dots that sprung up every once in a while and kind of got scooped under the rug. Nothing to see here, folks. Move on, please. Right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Nonsense. Are you also aware that in the last 6 weeks, 5 people who have either come forward with or were aware of and about to come forward with very damaging information on either Hillary Clinton individually or the Clinton Foundation or the administration or the DNC and some of their activities. In 6 weeks, 5 of them have now been found dead. All right. One of them the victim of a robber. Another guy committed suicide by shooting himself twice in the back. After signs of a severe struggle, he just couldn't get up off the floor, so he killed himself. I don't know how they expect us to believe all of these coincidences that are supposedly going on. And one of them that was shot was a 27-year-old researcher for the Democratic National Committee. And on Tuesday, Julian Assange from WikiLeaks verified that was his source.
Yes.
For all of the stuff that came down around the convention time.
And he shows up dead.
Yeah. And speculation was, no proof yet, but he was going to meet the FBI.
That's part of tyranny. That's what tyranny is all about.
We
Get
are
rid of the people who don't agree with you.
We may have the frontal appearance of a well-established, civilized society called the United States of America, and a bunch of patriots running around, complaining and waving flags and all of that jazz. But to the rest of the world, we have got to just appear to be a banana republic. That the people are too stupid or too lazy to do anything about. And I don't know what it is. So I can do my part. We can do our part at the Doc Owen Show, I should say, all 3 of us, and our supporters, our friends, our listeners. We can do our part to make sure that we don't fall into the category of stupid. I can't guarantee that you won't fall into the category of lazy, because it's not easy, right?
That's correct.
But we will not. We will be well informed.
That's true.
Okay. Hackers set to release private videos of Clinton. I told you this was going to get nasty. Okay. Here's the one that says, Julian Assange just delivered the next batch of emails. She's toast in all capital letters.
Yeah.
There has, and I like this one, there has never been a time in U.S. history where our leadership has failed us so badly. Over the past 8 years, Obama, with the help of Hillary Clinton, has done everything in his power to destroy what makes this country great. And that's my problem. That's why the Doc Owen Show is in existence. That's why we are on the air. That's why we are out and about, is because our country is being destroyed.
Yes, sir.
Plain and simple. And there's no getting around about it. At first it's because he was stupid. He was incompetent, but you couldn't say anything because he was black. And they're trying to set up the same thing. We can't say anything about her because she's a female. You know what I'm saying? The only defense that they have is that when we come out with a piece of truth, they're just saying that because they're racist. They're just saying that because they don't like females. Don't pay any attention to them. And unfortunately, their political party minions pay attention to what their leaders say, and they don't pay attention to us. I don't have a solution. It's extremely aggravating. It's all we can do to maintain our decorum, and just call them what they are, idiots, and walk on.
I know, I even get upset at some of these Facebook postings. I start writing, and then I get into the lines.
They're trolls. They're progressive trolls.
I'm like, you can't see the forest for the trees.
They don't want to. They're paid players.
That's right.
They're paid players. And now that you're on the Twitterverse, you're going to get another double dose of it.
Bring them on.
They're even better out there. There's more of them out there than there are on Facebook. And the front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.